Hi, Joe Paprocki from Loyola Press for Pop-Up Catechesis. So my grandfather, John Paprocki, established Paprocki Pharmacy in 1919, and then my dad took it over until he retired in 1987. And so I learned early on that I had a name to live up to. Everyone in the neighborhood and the community knew the name Paprocki. And so I had to live up to that name. And I found out the hard way. When I was in grade school, I remember one time being called out on the carpet by our principal, Sister Salome, for some transgression. I'm sure it wasn't too awful. But as she verbally chastised me, I remember the following words really stung. She said, "That's not what I'd expect from a Paprocki." Ouch. I had no idea that apparently carrying that name, I was expected to think, speak, and act in a certain way. Lest people say that's not what I'd expect from a Paprocki. Well, the Second Commandment, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, reminds us that we have another name to live up to, God's name. When we were baptized, we received not only our own name, but also the name of God, since we are now God's children and we are brothers and sisters in Christ. And so do we live up to the name Christian? We tend to minimize the Second Commandment and limit it to saying bad words, especially words that involve God's name. And while that is certainly a part of the Second Commandment, it's about so much more than that. It's about living up to God's name so that when people observe how we think, speak, and act, they won't be saying, "That's not what I'd expect of a Christian." So help your children to think about what it means to live up to the name Christian, one who is like Christ. Encourage them to pay attention to how they think, speak, and act so that they are bringing honor to God's name, which through baptism is a name we now share. For Pop-Up Catechesis, this is Joe Paprocki. Until next time, God bless.